You have to admit, though, Scully, this is a pretty amazing piece of technology.
Yeah, wasted on a stupid game.
Stupid?
Dressing up like high-tech warriors to play a futuristic version of cowboys and Indians? What kind of moron gets his Ya-Yas out like that? Mulder, what purpose does this game serve except to add to a culture of violence in a country that's already out of control?
Well, who says it adds to it?
You think that taking up weapons and creating gratuitous virtual mayhem has any redeeming value whatsoever? I mean, that the testosterone frenzy that it creates stops when the game does?
Well, that's rather sexist, isn't it? I mean, maybe the game provides an outlet for certain impulses. That it fills a void in our genetic makeup that the more civilizing effects of society fail to provide for.
Well, that must be why men feel the great need to blast the crap out of stuff.
Hello and welcome to Most Unwanted and X-Files podcast. I'm Chex, joined as ever by Luke. How are you doing today, Luke?
Not too bad. I'm doing pretty good. It's a late one for us tonight, isn't it?
It is, yeah. We're going late into the night recording. We're sacrificing for the art, as always.
Do you know what, though? I think it's the change in seasons tricking me into thinking it's later than it is. Like, because it starts getting late a lot earlier now. Like, I'm like, oh God, it's really late. And I'm looking, it's like 8 o'clock. And I'm like, oh, it's not. This is winter.
I was wondering whether you wanted to quickly talk about what we've been talking about constantly over the past couple of weeks, which is our delving back into Middle Earth.
Yeah, I worry that it's become a problem, to be honest.
So obviously the new show, The Rings of Power, based in Middle Earth after Lord of the Rings, is out at the moment. Both enjoying it, I'm guessing. I mean, I've spoken to you very broadly about it.
Yeah, I see all this annoyance online, and again, I know it's like we literally mentioned in the last episode we're trying to stay away from that. So I love this series. Like, it's not like the best Lord of the Rings thing or like Middle Earth thing I've ever seen, but I'm really, really enjoying it. You know what I mean? Like,
it's done exactly what they intended to do, because me and you have just delved into every bit of Lord of the Rings. Like, I've watched all the films. I've watched The Hobbit. I've watched a lot.
I've started. So yeah, I've been watching Lord of the Rings. I've started. I had loads of Lord of the Rings models, like like Warhammer models and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
They do Lord of the Rings one. I've dug all mine out of the attic where I sort of put them because I was like, I'm never going to touch these again. I've got them all out again. I've started painting them up. I'm like,
there you go.
Oh God! I was like, they've done me. They've absolutely done me on this.
There is a lot of that in today's media where I mean, I understand the criticisms of it. I think Scorsese probably being one of the biggest critics of like these huge sort of like cinematic universes,
yeah.
But I still really enjoy the idea of being able to have this world and just constantly build upon it. Like, this is something, and I think it comes down to my age, because when I was 10, this is something I could only ever dream of, and it's actually a reality now.
Yeah, I read something the other day about I guess it's kind of negative about our generation is where we're holding on to our childhoods for longer, you know what I mean? Like, so all of the films that are coming out are nostalgia, or tapping into nostalgia, or like tapping into stuff that we liked as kids. Like, everything's like a remake or a sequel to something that we used to love, and they're sort of they're trying to get onto that. I understand that criticism. Personally, though, they're just making stuff that I enjoy. You know what I mean? I'm like, I did used to like this, still do. So keep making more if you want.
I also kind of object to the idea of holding on to your childhood being a bad thing.
Yeah,
I think we should be kids for our entire lives. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to grow up. I mean, I'm 30 years old and I still feel like a teenager. And I don't. Why is that a bad thing? Like,
I feel like a lot more people are like that and just won't admit it. You know what I mean? You sort of have to appear like, no, I'm a grown adult now and stuff like this. I can't. And like, I always remember like people saying, "Oh, you shouldn't play like video games and stuff like that when you get past a certain age." And it's like, why? Like, why shouldn't you do these things? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's your free time. It's your life. Do what you like with it. You know what I mean? It seems
exactly
ridiculous.
That. Yeah.
But yeah.
I still intend to be goofing around when I'm 80. So I'm not going to change. I'm not going to change. I don't see why I should. Like, I don't think it's a bad thing. I really don't.
My biggest fear is that I'll retire and like I'll get like really bad arthritis or something in my hands and won't be able to play games and stuff like that. That's my biggest fear. I'm like, God damn it, I've waited for this time where I don't have to work anymore. Or either that or I'm in some kind of like, I don't know, resource war in the future.
Yeah, more likely.
Yeah. Well, we'll see about that. We'll see what happens in the next few years.
Well, I mean, before that happens, we probably best get to talking about this episode whilst we've got the time to do so. Shall we get into this week's episode, First Person Shooter? This week, we'll be looking at Season 7, Episode 13, as I said before, entitled First Person Shooter. Directed by Chris Carter, written by William Gibson and Tom Maddox.
I was going to say, did the name William Gibson ring any bells?
Not to me. Should it?
So he wrote an episode of The X-Files. Which one? I can't remember what it was called, but it was the one. Do you remember the one where Mulder goes into like a computer and he's like gets his arms and legs amputated and stuff like that?
Kill Switch.
Yes, Kill Switch. That's the one. Yeah. So he wrote that, and he's also like a quite a famous sci-fi author.
Okay. No, I completely mind blanked on that one. Yeah, no, I didn't remember. So it was also written by Tom Maddox as well. And it originally aired February 27th, 2000. Oh, First Person Shooter. Here we go. I don't know what to say about this one. How am I going to talk about this one for under an hour? Like, 50 minutes or so. Right. We start in what appears to be a video game, or at least like a paintball type situation. That's what I was thinking at the start.
Yeah.
Three guys are, and it's very much, it's kind of what we were saying before, they're holding on to their childhood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because they're being like war shooters. They're playing a video game, a virtual reality video game where they fight off waves of like bad guys on motorbikes, and they've all got like their sort of automatic guns. We learn that in this video game you can get shot, and it takes you down and it hurts when you get shot, but essentially isn't deadly. And we're intercutting these scenes with scenes from the control room of people watching this video game be played out. So we find out it's a bit like an escape room of sorts, or like a virtual reality game.
Yeah. I also like the second level they go to, where it's all in the same sort of area, but like there's different enemies. And the second area is they don't really focus on it too much. I'm pretty sure it's Nazis, isn't it, firing from the top? Yeah,
I think so. It's very much like your generic video game.
Yeah.
It's Indiana Jones. It's, you know what I mean? And they're all shooting, and they're all like doing like these sort of, they're taking it very seriously, like trying military tactics between the three of them.
Their names as well. Like, they were like, because one of them's called like Retro and stuff like that. And I was just like, do you know 90s Image comic books like Spawn and I got so many like vibes of this. It was like these people who are just like, we're so like cool, and it's like doing these like really like edgy kind of stuff.
I think that's intentional though.
100%, yeah, 100%.
They're definitely portraying these guys as like man boys.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Two of them get taken down, like they're sort of out for the count. It looks like they get electroshocks to sort of simulate being dead in the game.
Yeah.
But however, one player makes it to the next level where he encounters a scantily clad female, which appears not to show up in the control room. It doesn't show up in the actual game. And honestly, like, obviously, we watch Game of Thrones and stuff like that. Obviously, there's a lot more risque stuff on TV nowadays.
Yeah.
This shocked me how risque it was for X-Files.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting angle that they've taken that we've never really gone down in kind of, and it's all done for purpose. You know what I mean? Like it's all designed the way. Yeah.
That slow pan up from behind, and I was like, "What are we doing here?" This is.
It's definitely. I got the feeling it's kind of like a sort of pastiche and kind of like what's the word I'm looking for? A criticism of games at the time. You know what I mean? Like, there was definitely that kind of. It's now it's not as bad. It's still got its problems and stuff, and you still see stuff like this. But in video games as a whole, they have a bad image with how they treat women. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In them, and especially at this time, it was very much the sort of like male gaze, pervy kind of content and stuff like that,
which is shown throughout the episode as well.
Yes, yeah.
And I do wonder whether another reason why this was put in was to sort of like almost shine a light on all the male characters in this episode of like the way they react to it. Like, take this character, for example, literally stops playing the game and is stuck in his tracks as he watches this woman come towards him. And she says to him, "This is my game," and kills him with a flintlock pistol.
Yes, yeah.
What did you think of this intro, Luke?
This was so stupid. I loved it. It was unbelievable.
We are going to fall out on this episode, I'll tell you that right now.
This reminded me of, have you ever heard of trauma films? Like those like really schlocky, low budget, like,
no.
It's all like blood and guts, kind of like just, like schlocky, like horror films and stuff like that. And they are just unbelievably stupid, like so dumb that like you just know what you're getting into when you're watching them. Every vibe of this was this like 90s grungy kind of aesthetic with this stupid story, and it's just wildly over the top. And for that reason, I liked how they just went for it. You know what I mean? It is really stupid, and I understand why people hate it. But I like that they went down that avenue.
I would. This is going to be the first disagreement of the show.
Yeah.
I don't think they was going for that. Like, I think there's an element of it, but I also think like there's a serious story. There's some themes in this episode which are wild to put in this episode, like misogyny and like later on in the episode, they really try to put this theme in of like women having to work in a male testosterone workplace, and I'm like, what are we talking about here with this is the episode? Why are we cutting to Duchovny's best Arnie impression after that scene?
It's incredibly ham-fisted the way they try
really
to give this feminist message. Like, I completely agree with that. Honestly, I agree with everything you're saying, and for that reason, I also like just how stupid it is.
Okay, because this is going to be one of those episodes where we're really going to try and stay on track, because it would be so easy to just delve into like all aspects of it.
Yeah.
I'm going to be very sort of generalized of the plot, because I feel like we could just talk regardless.
There's only one part I want to delve into deep, but we'll get to that. We'll get to that part
when we get to it. You go right for it. And Mulder and Scully come in because this guy that got shot by the flintlock pistol died. Like, it shouldn't happen. There's no way she wasn't technically in the game. Like, they couldn't see her on the game, but he died from a real gunshot wound. So they've come in, like, obviously, because how did this happen? And they've also found that the lone gunmen are there. Thank God for the lone gunmen. Thank God for elevating this episode. Because they work as consultants on the game.
Yes, of course. I mean, as soon as they walked in, I was like, well, of course they're involved. It's the lone gunman. We've seen an incredibly scantily clad woman. I mean, I know they're not part of that, but it's the lone gunman. And this like over the top sort of conspiracy based shooting thing. It's like, it's almost definitely their bag, basically.
For sure. And again, all these characters are being portrayed as these man boys. I'm going to use that as like the sort of the generic term for it, but like very male testosterone teenage boy type sort of like video game, like we fanboying over everything.
Yeah.
They make a point of saying how difficult it is to get real weapons into the building. It's a very highly secured building. There's no real weapons used in the game. They actually show them footage, and they found a scan of the person that's caused this gunshot wound.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, they're all standing around as this scan of a female character comes up, to which Mulder wants textured straight away. And then...
I think his line is, it ain't all she's packing, referencing the gun.
That's later. So that's what... The texture comes up, and we get another slow pan shot of this female's rear.
Yeah.
And then Frohike says she's packing a flintlock, to which Mulder replies, that's not all she's packing.
That's it, yeah. I preempted it. I knew I wrote that down.
Again, I think purposefully. I think it's meant to sort of like show this sort of like misogyny when like this sort of male testosterone gets in the blood of
it's very James Bond, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, that's Sean Connery James Bond.
Yeah, definitely the Sean Connery James Bond.
Yeah, it's not Pierce Brosnan this now.
No.
This episode.
I wrote at this point, this is like a really, really crude Black Mirror episode. You know what I mean? Like, do you know the episode where they go into the game and in the one of the latest seasons where it's like two guys go into a game, they're a fighting game. It's kind of that kind of like story, but with a lot of the heart ripped out of it.
Well, this is the thing. At this point, I have my issues with the episode. At this point of watching it, right? So 10 minutes in, I've got my issues with the episode, but I think it's a cool concept. And I actually think they're going in a different direction here, which I think, actually, this could be interesting. I thought they was going to go down the route of it was an X-File because the VR or the virtual reality was so realistic that the person's mind has caused the wound. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So I thought, this could be interesting. Like your brain can be tricked so much that it caught like when it feels a knife go into the stomach, it actually causes internal bleeding. And I thought, that could be quite interesting. Doesn't touch on that at all.
No,
in fact,
probably
they don't explain how they die at all.
It would probably be a better way of them dying. Yeah, I will agree with that. There, I completely agree with you.
I feel like a lot of this is going to be you agreeing with all my points and telling me you love it anyway.
I mean, basically, yeah. I don't understand how I enjoy this episode, but I did.
I'm very much looking forward to seeing what everyone else thinks of this because this is wild to me.
I got about halfway through it and I got the Room vibes. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Do you know when something is so like unbelievably like
when we see
weird and strange?
When we see Mulder in those really tiny glasses.
That was the point. That was the point. I was like, I think I like this episode a lot.
So Mulder takes the printout of this character. He starts sending...
He loves carrying a printout around, and he
wanted to keep that printout for sure.
Yeah.
And he starts running a police scan to see whether they can find this culprit, even though we know she's doesn't exist apparently.
Mm-hmm.
Then they all get very excited. I'm going to butcher this name, and I do apologize. Is it Daryl Musashi?
Daryl Musashi, yeah. They make a point. This is Daryl Musashi.
Musashi.
Obviously it's not a name we know, but they keep going on to the point where it's even a joke that Mulder makes where they just keep saying his name.
Yeah.
He's this high up guy. But yeah, and then at one point he just turns around to Scully and just goes, but it's Daryl Musashi.
Yeah, Scully is playing the grown up.
Yes.
The only grown up in the room basically is what Scully's job is, and they're all kids running around and they all get very excited. This is the thing, this episode doesn't make any sense. It doesn't explain how they just disappear from the world. It doesn't explain how any of these injuries happen. It doesn't explain why they keep putting people in this game, even though there's risk of death.
Yeah, I guess.
And like Mulder and Scully are FBI agents, and they just watch this happen. Watch people go into the game knowing that they're going to die.
Yeah, that was a wild point. They let him wander into it, and it's like, obviously he's going to fix this problem because he's such a good gamer, so he's going to solve this.
And there's no trepidation either.
Do you know what?
Like, Hickey's like, Mulder, come look at this. This is great, Mulder.
maybe this is a critique on our fixation with violence and how we feel like violence can solve everything. Maybe that's what they're going for. I can't even say that with a straight face.
Did you pull muscles with how much you stretched there, Luke?
Hey, I'm not defending this episode at all. It needs no defense.
Hey, you know what? I like episodes like this because it gives us a really good, fun podcast to talk about it.
100%, yeah. I honestly, I left watching this episode just thinking, I can't wait to talk about this episode.
Save. So Masashi comes in and he is a superstar in this world, a legendary hacker. And he comes in. I don't know whether he comes in to solve the problem. They're not really sure. He's coming to beat the game.
Basically, yeah.
And so,
because I don't know if their opinion is that he's going to fix the bugs in the game. I work with software. That's not how you fix bugs.
That's how you get into the software.
I'm gonna keep playing it and beat it, and then that's gonna fix the problems in it.
He plays the game, and to the amazement of everyone watching, he doesn't even take cover. He has no fear. He takes all the bikers out.
Double Uzi.
Double Uzi. He doesn't even wait for the next level to begin. He continues on to the level without that, and it's like, what a madman. But unfortunately, the same woman turns up. She's now a samurai. And she cuts off. And she cuts off his hands.
Yeah.
And then cuts off his head.
Mm.
And people back in the room just like, oh, he's dead. He's just died. And that's it. That's the reaction we get from that. Another murder in this highly sealed facility.
Yeah. How did that? I mean, the reveal later on how they know he's definitely dead is another point as well. Do you know when they come
to head?
No, the fact when they come to do the autopsy and Mulder shows Scully how his body's arranged. What now? This is a question. We might jump to that point in a bit.
Yeah.
He's put his head near his feet to show he's been decapitated. Now, I understand that's visually
that's a good old Hollywood technique, that is, Luke.
To show the distance from his neck that his head is in. There's no way on earth they're going to just pop his head by his feet. You know what I mean? Like, just bundle it all together. It'll be fine.
Oh, dude. It would have been funny if his hands were there as well.
Covering his eyes or something like that.
Paying the ferry toll.
Yeah.
Like, again, let's this is the problem with this episode. You can get caught up talking for an hour about every scene. Mulder gets a call saying that they found the woman, the portrait that he's printed off. They found her, and so she's at the police station now. And they go.
Before we get to that, there's a point where Mulder and Scully have a conversation about video games and stuff like that. So Mulder's sort of talking about how this video games provide like this base sort of outlet for people, like, they can indulge in violence and stuff like that. And Scully is like completely against that. It basically sounds like every news story you've ever heard on why GTA is a bad thing. He literally has that kind of opinion on it. But yeah, I like this sort of this conversation about how video games are good, video games are bad kind of thing. And it's kind of like we should probably meet somewhere in the middle, you know what I mean, and say there's a reason for them. You don't have to go to the polar opposites.
For sure. And this is 2000. This is the time when that debate was like raging, and you do have those two sides being shown quite eloquently in this conversation. My problem is it does nothing to like expand on that argument. It gives both sides, and the story doesn't resolve It doesn't give it a conclusion.
And it also gives you the worst example of what a video game looks like. Do you know
Exactly.
what? Scully should play like Journey or something like that. She'd be like, do you know what? I understand it now. I get it. This is very peaceful. Yeah, she's like, this is very therapeutic. Not, I don't know, Doom. Something like that.
Well, you'll be glad to know that misogyny in the workplace doesn't just extend to the video game industry. It also extends to the police.
Yeah, this was like something of Roger Rabbit, wasn't it?
It's like a 1920s cop film,
honestly. I was waiting for somebody's tongue to fall like onto the floor or something like that, like, or their eyeballs to pop out their head.
Mulder turning around as he's walking through the door and doing that sort of whoa face.
Yeah.
It's
unbelievable.
It's belief. So sorry, I've skipped past it. Basically, every police officer in that building, rather than solving crimes, is leering at this woman through the window.
Yeah.
Which,
literally,
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm no disparity on. Okay, the woman's name is I forgot her name now. It's Jade Blue Afterglow.
Jade Blue Afterglow, yeah.
Very beautiful woman. Like nothing against her. It's just a woman in a short skirt.
Yeah.
Like, it's, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's. I wrote the exact same thing as you. It's some good old sexist police work going on, right? It's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like
burglaries happening in LA.
Yeah.
No one cares. It's fine.
Yeah. I mean, I get what funnily enough, I get what they're going for. You know what I mean? That this. So Scully and the woman developer who we haven't really talked about, but there's a woman.
She's like one of the Phoebe. She's one of the developers that like running the game.
Yeah.
All we've really seen from her so far is like she's an assistant and she seems to recognize the woman in the game.
Yeah. So it's sort of tried to sort of portray these two as sort of these outliers in this very male-dominated sort of industries, I suppose. And to be fair, society at large, like especially in this day,
this is more in depth than the whole episode was.
That's the thing. That's what they're going for. What you come away with is this cartoonish, like hubba kind of thing. it's like Johnny Bravo. You know what I mean? Like, it's just wild. Like the sort of what they're going for. Like again, it's this. They're trying to go for this message. It's just really ham-fisted, like incredibly so.
The emotional scene that I was talking about before, which is like Scully and Phoebe talking about like what it's like to be in a male-dominated industry and like the sort of the coping mechanisms they have to deal with that, and they sort of connect and relate on that subject. Then to cut back to the guys all acting like 5-year-olds, I don't know. It's really jarring.
Yeah, and to even when we get to the end of the episode where we find out that this sort of character is like the antithesis to that is this like killer
feeds off testosterone.
Yeah, exactly. Like she is trying to sort of quell that by killing it. You know what I mean? Like, and it's just these two polar opposites of like of this discussion. I guess not even that, I suppose.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's because it's so like two separate ends of it. There's no sort of like middle ground or some like reconciliation in the middle. It's just these two like completely opposed views never ever having a resolution. It's just like these are the incredibly cartoonish misogynistic cops, and this is the ultra feminist kill all the men character, you know what I mean? And it's like, what's going on? Is this a cartoon? Honestly, it feels like a cartoon. And again, that kind of plays into some of the things that I like about it.
So Mulder and Scully interview Jade Blue, who reveals that she is a stripper. Honestly, Jade Blue Afterglow comes out of this episode for me with the most credit of all the characters. She's been detained for no reason whatsoever and reacted impeccably to disgusting treatments from all involved. She has Mulder wrapped around a little finger. She's very sassy. But she does tell him that she believes the imaging software that was used was because she took a side gig where her whole body got scanned for a company that she didn't really know. It's basically like a cash in hand kind of job. She just made a quick buck by scanning her whole body in, and that's probably where they've seen her. But confirming she has nothing to do with it. She wasn't involved in the actual killing.
No, she's just the face of it, ultimately.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, literally. Yeah.
Literally the face and entire body.
And body of it. The face and body of this killer.
I love Mulder in this part, as you said. He just is cartoonishly sort of like, he literally needs a cold shower, like, after this. You know what I mean? Like, it's, he's just Mulder being peak Mulder, I think, at this point.
We'll carry on. I'm very, very concerned with, like, because obviously there's a lot to talk about. Mulder and Scully go back and find that, of course, the lone gunman decided the best thing to do is go into the game themselves, the game that kills people. So
their thing was, don't turn the game on. Just leave us in the sort of like the room. Yeah, it's like oh no, room. It's accidentally turned on, like to no one's surprise.
And so Mulder decides to save them, and he enters the game, and we get arguably the best scene in the entire episode. Mulder with the tiniest glasses you've ever seen in your life.
The glasses.
So
This is like somebody if you just described the Matrix to them and he was like, can you draw me a picture of it, but just from a description, it's like this. You know what I mean? It's Matrix on the worst budget possible with none of the context.
It's wild. He comes in and he does save them because they were struggling with the first part. And Mulder is living it up. He is loving this role. He gets to play out this fantasy that he's always had of like just being the hero. But he does see this woman, and so like now it's like a battle between this woman and himself. Like he actually leaves the lone gunman where they are and chases her in. But something happens. The game shuts down. Like that's what they're trying to do, and Mulder disappears. This is where I was just like, I'm done. I am done. No explanation.
Yeah.
It's literally, he's in a room, he's got a headset on. Like, he just disappears, into the code? Like, what is this?
Yeah, there's no reason for why this should happen at all. This is like, do you know we said in the last episode how they didn't need an explanation for the thing because they explained how it killed things and enough where you can grasp it. With this, they went, just got sucked into the computer. It's like, whoa, we need a bit more. A bit more than
that. We cut back to, obviously, they're in the control room. They're all trying to sort of, like, fix it and find out where Mulder's gone. The lone gunman managed to get out of the game themselves. This is where we get that moment we've spoke about already, which is between Scully and Phoebe basically admits that she created this character, this woman, she calls her goddess, as a way of coping with being in this male-dominated industry. Like, this is what she threw herself in. This is the work that basically she actually says at one point she's all the things I can't be. To which Scully kind of understands. But this is where we get the indication that the goddess is feed. And by the way, I'm looking at the notes afterwards. Apparently, she's called Maitreya, but I don't remember that ever being mentioned in the episode.
No, I don't think they ever mention the name of the person. I think it's one of those where they probably wrote it down in the cast or something.
Yeah,
like that,
possibly.
Yeah.
But anyway, the goddess wasn't supposed to be in the game. It managed to get from her computer into this game system and is now killing testosterone-fueled men. Yeah,
that's it. Yeah,
that's it. That's the story. That's the plot.
That's the thing. Like with this, like there's not like. Well, I think you can infer like meaning onto it if you want to, but I don't know if it gives you enough that it sort of has that sort of meaning in it. To be honest,
yeah, you're doing a lot of the legwork if you're putting the meaning onto this episode. I think.
Yeah, like again, you can really see this as like a sort of criticism on ultra masculinity and like or toxic masculinity and stuff like this, especially in a workplace, you know what I mean? Like this male dominated sort of industries that are sort of so aggressive to females in there. They don't
legwork you're doing here.
Exactly. They don't give you any of that. You have to like. I feel like that's only something that you can take away from it these days. You know what I mean? Where people are a bit more educated in these kind of things.
But like you said at the beginning of this episode, lean into it. Lean into the craziness of it.
Yeah.
But like by trying to sort of like make these serious points, it just felt so weird. It didn't like. And it did. You can't have an episode and say, look, we're commenting on like video game violence, what it really means and how it's affecting young males and turning them into these sort of macho. You can't say that you're commenting on it and not give an opinion on it. You can't, because the episode just goes, this is a thing, and then never just anything else. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's not like I'm preaching, you know what I mean? So, let's really rattle through this last scene and we can talk about it as a whole.
There's one part in this, I don't know where it is exactly, but they decide that they need to shut down the game at one point, but they can't figure out how to shut it down, and they have to. I'm guessing you're going to get into the last scene there.
Yeah.
This part kills me. Langley we know he's a programmer. You know what I mean? Like he's advanced in, and you know he's always coding things. He's always working
breaking into government systems.
Yeah. So he can't figure out how to shut the game down because he just keeps typing in different words like kill, end. That's what I do when I don't know how to work code. I'm like, oh, is this one? Do we have to run get all with this, or is it get dash all, or is it? Do you know when you're like trying to figure out different, like, because codes have all got different like syntaxes they're called in here. This is what I imagine he's doing. He's panicking here, and he's like, I don't know if this is SQL or if it's what's it? I don't know, C#. He's like just trying to type any kind of fucking code.
This is what you're not understanding, Luke.
Yeah,
because obviously Langley would just pull out the power cable. And in this situation, he would just cut the power, because Langley knows this, but obviously he can't do that in a situation because Mulder has been sucked into the game. So obviously he can't. Luke, think about it. This episode gives you all you need to realise that.
Do you know what? They could have easily explained all this away by saying, so there's an episode of Buffy, a very early episode, where there's a demon and it's inside a computer. And you can basically get away with anything because you go, oh, it's demonic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it can. If they said this was like a demon of, I don't know, I'm trying to think of something, a demon of hate or something like that. I mean, it's probably a bit too similar to the last episode, like with fear and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? If this was a demon that was leeching off of this, like sort of the feelings of this woman, and putting them onto a character in a game because it worked its way into the game. You go, oh, it's a demon. Okay, I get it now. So the demon sucked him into the computer. I don't know how, but demons can do weird stuff.
Yeah.
This is just a computer program.
It's just a computer program.
Yeah. This Microsoft Office has sucked me into the computer. You know what I mean? Like, we might as well say that. Anyway, the end.
Like coming up to the last scene, it's a dramatic sort of race against time. Obviously, Mulder's still alive. He's fighting for his life against this goddess, and they can't find a way to sort of get him out. That's what you were saying. Like Langley's trying to shut the computer, the system down. Scully goes into the game to save Mulder, and like it's kind of like this sort of weird, like pseudo. Like commentary on like her getting into the game herself and like actually seeming to enjoy like the shooting aspect and like just enjoying that sort of toxic masculinity that's been throughout the game. And whilst they're in the game, in the control room, they find out that the only way to stop this is to completely kill the system. But that would mean erasing everything. It would erase the game, which Ivan's worked hard on, and it would erase the woman, which obviously Phoebe has put so much of her heart into. All the while, Mulder and Scully are fighting duplicates of this woman who are now straddling tanks
as cowboys. You're forgetting.
I forgot.
You're forgetting the
Cowboys.
context. You're forgetting the context of this episode.
Now you said cowboys, doesn't seem so ridiculous. So yeah, you are right.
Yeah.
Nothing to say. No, we'll go.
What do you say? It's hard to comment on the actual scenes of it, other than just to take it all in.
Yeah, and it's like literally, it's very much like a Space Invaders type thing where nothing's really happening. Mulder and Scully are just shooting loads of these. They shoot one, destroys it. Another one comes in, and they're all the same. Ivan is still protesting that the game shouldn't be shut down. Who cares if a couple of FBI agents are killed? Who cares?
Don't worry about it. We got stockholders and
and we've got to satisfy them.
Yeah. Now that is a comment on America's obsession with capitalism, that they'll even sacrifice lives anyway.
That's what I took from that.
Yeah.
But Phoebe eventually gives Byers the kill command, the code that she needs, tearfully, because obviously it means that she is losing this this thing that she put her heart and soul into, which destroys the goddess, and Mulder and Scully manage to get themselves out of the game. And this, honestly, this is the point where I mentioned in the last episode, I text you saying, what the F was this episode, right?
I know exactly what you're going to say. This
scene right here, I was like, it was like a slap in the face, Luke. It was like I got physically assaulted.
Yeah,
we get a Mulder's narration here.
Yeah.
I don't know what Mulder said. I was that angry at what happened here. I don't know what Mulder said.
Yeah, I just put, it's even got a Mulder outro. Miraculously.
Mulder narrates the ending whilst we see Ivan in the control room as he's made up, because a bit of his program's still alive, and it's the goddess, and we see the goddess get textured, and the texture comes up, and it's wearing that skimpy little outfit, and then she turns around. It's got Scully's face. What are we doing here? What's the message?
I burst. I could not believe this is the end.
How did Gillian Anderson sign off on this? What is going on?
The only thing I can take from this is that they've gone, do you know what? We didn't need to be an ultra murder feminist killer. We just needed a female icon. Scully is our female icon. You know what I mean? Like,
make sure she's wearing that leotard.
That's the only thing I can think that they thought that meant, but I could not stop laughing at that.
Absolutely wild. I felt like, because I was like, all the way through, I was like, well, they're trying to get these messages. And then this scene was just like, there's no message to this episode. There's no, like, bigger meaning. Why is Scully's face on this model? I don't understand.
No idea. It's the annoying thing is it's hard to tell because it's like that old like PS1 graphics. You're like, is that Scully?
Like, Ivan is loving it. He is loving it.
Yeah, yeah.
So what do you think of the episode?
So this was unbelievably silly. It was schlocky. It had this weird sort of ham-fisted message it was trying to get across that didn't really pan out. And it was just really out of character for an X-Files episode. Absolutely, like, it just did not feel like an X-Files episode. But, and I don't know how, but I really like this episode. I feel like it's, as I mentioned, I feel like it's in the same way that people like The Room or like really bad horror films and stuff like that are just like corny or like stupid and stuff like that. Every criticism that everyone would put forward for this, I 100% get and I 100% agree with, but I can't say I wasn't entertained whilst watching this. All the way through it, I was laughing at just how fucking weird it was.
Entertaining is definitely a word you could use.
Yeah.
I wasn't as entertained. I struggled like this. You know what? The funny thing is, if anything, recording this podcast has made me enjoy it more because you can get enjoyment from stuff like this, and I don't think it worked. but I think it's made for a really funny discussion. And so I've really enjoyed sort of like breaking it down and basically taking the mick out of it.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of feels like to me you have to with this one. Like if you look at it seriously, it's bad. It's not a good episode at all. But I think with just how weird and strange it is, it is this like it is entertaining for that reason. Yeah, it's probably not the intent. Definitely not the intent, I'd say, of the people who wrote it. I mean, again, William Gibson is like a renowned like sci-fi author. Like he basically created cyberpunk like as a genre. You know what I mean? Like he's pioneered all that. So I don't feel like he was like going, do you know what? I want this stupid like video game comedy episode to be. You know what I mean? It definitely meant to have comedic elements in there.
Yeah,
but I definitely feel like it was meant to be more serious than it was.
It's just a wild ride. Yeah, as I say, there was just scenes that ending scene. I just felt betrayed almost.
Yeah,
I didn't know. Like I looked at the screen, like the black screen. You know what? That scene happened, and it cuts to like created by Chris Carter, black screen created by Chris Carter. And you know when sometimes your TV, like certain lighting, your TV goes to that black screen and you see a reflection of yourself watching that TV. And I looked at myself.
Yeah.
And I just thought, what have they done to me here? What have I just watched?
That's 45 minutes of my life. Gone.
I just thought, what are they trying to say there? What, like, everything that I've tried to put into this, undone with that one scene.
Yeah.
But there was definitely moments in it. There was funny lines. The lone gunman, I think, elevated this, which is hard to do. But I think it's always good to see the lone gunman. And I'll put that out there.
Imagine if they weren't in it. That's all I'm going to say.
This is a victim of plot, because I don't think there was a bad performance in it. Like Phoebe, I thought she did a perfectly serviceable role. The woman who plays I keep forgetting her name. The one with 4 names. What's her name?
Matreya.
Jade Blue Afterglow, like the actual person.
Yeah.
I thought she was great. But played the role perfectly. Mulder and Scully didn't perform badly. It's just the story. I just don't think it works. It's a wild story, which is full of nonsensical. What I assume they thought would be cool bits.
Yeah, with plot holes everywhere. And,
I don't think they even cared. I don't think they even cared about plot holes.
I'd argue the plot hole was the entire episode. It was just like a gaping sort of like chasm of a plot. Where there was like, I don't know, computer games or something like that.
I tell you something, I have never looked forward to production notes more.
Luke's production notes.
The episode was written by William Gibson and his fellow science fiction novelist and longtime friend Tom Maddox. I reckon it's Tom's fault. Straight away. Yeah. That seems to me, it's like, I've got my mate to help me. Okay. Yeah, all right, fair enough.
So William was like, I'm going to sort out like the critical themes that we're going to use in this episode. Can you sort out the video game side of things? So I was like, yeah.
Yeah, no problem.
And then he came in the day filming. Oh no.
Yeah. I didn't do my research.
I think William Gibson should have known when it was on the back of a smoked packet. Yeah. The entire plot. Yeah. He should have gone, this isn't well thought out.
Yeah, this seems rushed. I'm disparaging. I have never heard or read any of Tom Maddox's work. Maybe he's brilliant. Like, his other stuff might be amazing. But I have heard of William
Disparage
Gibson.
him all you want. What's he gonna? He's gonna sue us. He's gonna defend. He's gonna defend this episode in court.
That is a good point.
Try.
Yeah.
Let him try.
Yeah, it's gonna be a tough one. First Person Shoot was the second episode written by the two after the season 5's Kill Switch. Okay, apparently he wrote Kill Switch as well. Let's pull it back. Let's pull it back a bit. The episode The episode was first aired in February 15th, 1998. This is Kill Switch, and was rerun often, which encouraged Gibson to continue working in television. According to executive producer Frank Spotnitz, the writing process for first-person shooter was slow. Initially, Gibson and Initially, Gibson and Maddox presented the first 2 acts of their idea, which were tweaked by series creator Chris Carter and Spotnitz in order to make the story feel more like an X-File. After the rewriting process, the writers then returned with the final 2 acts. Because both Gibson and Maddox enjoyed the lone gunmen as characters, they wrote first-person shooter to prominently feature them.
I mean, at least that's a good decision.
So where do you think it went wrong then? Because they wrote the first 2 acts, then Chris Carter and Spotnitz got involved, then they wrote the second 2 acts. Where did this fall apart? I'm
going to give Chris Carter a rare little bit, a piece of like sort of, credits, because like he's got credits in the bank.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I don't know.
Something went wrong somewhere, didn't it?
I think we need to sort of have a pause here and just talk about how consistently good the Lone Gunmen are. They are great. What great characters they are.
Yeah.
The writing of them, the actors, the portrayals, the stories, just they've never been in a bad scene. They're just consistently great, and I just want to point that out there. That even in this, they shone. And that's saying something.
Yeah. I mean, you can't really discredit them on anything. Like, I don't think I've ever seen them and gone, they've not nailed that, basically. Yeah. It comes down to, I think, if you know your character inside out, you can portray them in any situation. You know what I mean? Like faithfully. So I think it's probably that they sort of have a deep knowledge of what their character's meant to be.
Yeah.
Maybe. But anyway, the idea for the episode script proved difficult to transfer onto film. Spotnitz later explained that William Gibson and Tom Maddox always get us into trouble. They always come up with these great ideas that are always hard to execute. This was exacerbated by budgetary challenges. I can see you shaking your head.
Great ideas. Hey, you know what? I'm listening to this. I'm starting to think, was this just me?
Critic X-Files is coming up. They always come up with great ideas that are always hard to execute. This was exacerbated by budgetary challenges, as the many special effects in the episode almost caused the project to go over budget. To keep costs down, the production crew initially borrowed virtual game layouts from video game companies. However, not wishing to copy existing designs, production designer Corey Kaplan and his design team created layouts of their own, which ended up being costly. So this is a sort of separate point of where it's filmed. It was filmed in the S.E. Rakoff Distribution Center in Los Angeles. At the time, the company's owner was the uncle of X-Files producer Paul Rabwin. So it feels like they called in a favor there.
Yeah.
Carter later noted that the hardest part of first-person shooter was casting a suitable actress to play Maitreya. Casting director Rick Milliken looked into every possible avenue, including strippers, adult video entertainment ladies, erotic thriller / direct-to-video type actresses, before settling upon American comedian and actress Krista Allen. Initially, she possessed a wholesome quality that bothered Carter, but as the episode was being filmed, both Carter and Milliken recognized that Allen was right for the part.
What? She's in one scene. Why?
She's too wholesome.
Why did they... I don't understand. What?
Yeah.
Why is that difficult to... Wow, we've looked at all the actors. No actor can play this part. This one scene of them sitting down. So we need to look at strippers, adult video entertainment ladies, and erotic thriller actresses. Again, not disparaging that. Like that's a very legitimate job, and they should be considered for roles. But what? I don't understand why.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, that's their casting process, I guess. Anyway. The less said, the better, I think, on those comments.
I don't know. It's, you know what? They needed someone that would wear that what like that sort of leotard, whatever it's called.
Yeah, that outfit. Yeah.
What was wrong? Here's a little caveat that I put in. What was wrong with like just wearing a catsuit? It portrayed the exact same thing. I'm talking like a Halle Berry sort of catsuit.
Yeah.
What difference would that have made to the episode?
Yeah, it's hard to think of some of the ideas that they've said that this is what we want for this, but yeah, it's the least of the problems I think on this episode. First-person shooter also required the use of several stuntmen, most notably for Mulder and Maitreya. Dana Heath, a professional gymnast, was hired for the scene that required Maitreya to execute. We didn't mention this, to execute a series of handstands. This is where she kind of. I'm trying to think of what it was like. Kind of like some of their Mortal Kombat, where she just kept
flipped all the way back. Yeah.
Which is very much a video game cliche, if I've ever seen one. That like constant.
Impressive. It's impressive to do.
It was impressive. Great. Yeah. I wondered if it wasn't a practical stunt, if they just like, I don't know,
just took the image and just span it.
Span it. Yeah. I've been watching a lot of Lord of the Rings. I know you can do a lot with cameras lately. 14 stuntmen were also hired to ride the Kawasaki motorcycles and fire gas-powered machine guns. There you go. You got 14 bikes as well on hand. No wonder it cost them a fortune to do.
Yeah.
Now that could have used the Lord of the Rings style copying. You mean just get one and just copy.
Yeah, you don't need 14.
13 times. Yeah. And finally, Bruce Harwood, who portrayed Byers, noted that the action scenes in the episode were a challenge. He explained it's pretty difficult on set when the stuntmen come up to you and go, "Don't worry, you'll be safe, nothing to worry about." Okay, everyone put on your safety glasses. The tank scene was created entirely with CGI. No surprise there. The only actual footage from the scene was the background. A computer-generated tank along with a woman were designed on a computer. Then special effects shots of smoke and explosions were layered on top of the vehicle to give it a more lifelike appearance. What about that scene look lifelike? Anyway, yeah, maybe we should leave it there for production notes.
Wow.
Critic's files.
It stinks.
Welcome to the Critic's files.
Yes, please. I'm going to be brutally honest with you here, Luke. I'm not going to beat around the bush.
Yeah.
I think this is the lowest score I've ever given an X-Files episode.
Oh, God, what's it going to get?
This is a 2.
A 2? Whoa.
This is a 2.
Yeah. I mean, again,
it's just
completely understand.
Okay. I think the best way I can put this in a sentence, right? I had fun despite this episode.
Yeah, I can see
this
that.
This episode didn't contribute to the fun at all. I've had to make the fun. And like this podcast has been one of my favourites that we've done in a long time. So I do thank the episode for that, which is why it's on a 1. 2, I think, is a fair score for this episode.
Do you know last week I said that we had the biggest difference between scores?
Yeah. Controversial. There's big moments in them. Hopefully that's going to last for a long time.
Well, 1 week later and we've instantly got a big discrepancy. Now, I need to caveat this. I really do. I really do. Because, like, as soon as I say it, everyone's going to be like, what a dick.
I like hot women in leotards.
I know.
And so now I give this a 10.
When I rated this and wrote my review, I was like, oh, I'm just as bad as Mulder, and I think this episode is bad, but I was very entertained whilst watching it. I laughed a lot through it. Again, probably in spite of the episode more than because of it. Although saying that, seeing Mulder in those little tiny glasses is definitely worth it.
It's a great moment,
for that alone. With that being said, I've given this an 8. And I fully understand if people disagree. And I can't even defend myself.
I support your decision to give it an 8. Stand by it, Luke. I love it. That's great.
I did. I enjoyed it despite what it was. It was really stupid, and I loved it for it.
What did the world think? That's what I'm interested in.
So, surprisingly, it's not as harsh as I thought it would be on IMDb, at least, anyway. So from 3,289 votes, it got a 6.2. So not,
That
I mean,
surprises me.
It's low, but not that low. You know what I mean? It's low for sort of the caliber of X-Files episodes.
Yeah, you know what? It actually doesn't surprise me too much. Like, me giving it a 2 is like super harsh. I do understand that. That is a harsh score. So it probably is around about, like, on the average scale, around about the sort of 5 mark. But I'm sticking with it.
So the critics, on the other hand, at the time, who reviewed it for like Entertainment Weekly and TV magazines and stuff like that, I haven't specifically taken a review because I think it's better to just have a look at some of the reviews that they've given.
Give a general consensus, yeah.
But the general consensus was that this episode sucked. It was mostly negative reviews from critics, unanimously sort of bad across the board. People did not like this episode, definitely when it came out. So yeah, I feel like you and the critics are in alignment. And to be fair, there probably is some harsher reviews on IMDb, but when you get sort of like 3,000 odd reviews, you're going to get like this averaged out where some people are going to give it 10, some are going to give it 1s, you know what I mean? It sort of levels itself out.
I tell you what, because this is like the biggest difference between me and you on an episode, I am very interested to hear what our listeners have to say about this. So if for those people who regularly get in touch with the show, please do get in touch and let us know what you thought about this episode. If you've been listening and you've never got in touch with the show before, this is the time to get onto Twitter at Most Unwanted Pod and give us a review of this episode, because I am fascinated to see what the world thinks of this. Because this, again, we've both got very different views, but all similar views as well. Like, it's good. I'm really interested to see what people think about this.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I am interested to see where people sort of fall on this one. And yeah, just for the fact of just how different of an episode it is. Like, not in a good way, but it is very different. So yeah, but yeah, that's Critic's Files. So it's the end of the episode, I guess.
That has been a very fun episode. I have enjoyed recording this with you immensely, Luke. It's been a lot of laughs, and I feel like that this is why I love doing this podcast, because I can't imagine there being an episode where we don't at least make, like, the best thing about it is if it's a really bad episode for one of us, God, it makes it funny to record and tear it apart.
Exactly. Like as soon as I finished this episode, as I said throughout the recording here, I just knew that this would be a good podcast episode, because it's the same with when we saw Space. You know what I mean? We've not had this like really bad episode in a long time. So yeah, it's for that reason. It's just there's a lot to take away from it and discuss and laugh at.
Well, next week we'll see how they recover, or do they recover? That's what we don't know. But we'll be looking at episode 14 entitled Thief. Thief spelled with 2 E's. So I've got no idea what that means. We'll see.
It reminds me of Limmy saying thief. Thief. That's all it reminds me of.
We will, we'll be back next week to discuss that and more. Get in touch with the show. Let us know what you think. But for now, it's goodbye from me and goodbye from Luke.